Beneath Sentistan, I await a worthy foe.
Welcome back to Noob to Final Boss, the series where we take on every single boss in RuneScape. I've been playing this game for years, but honestly, I was always more of a skiller. Outside of some quest bosses and slayer monsters, I never really touched PvM. But that all changed when I started this series, and I challenged myself to unlock the final boss achievement, defeating all 54 bosses in the game. I started from scratch, no PvM gear, no fancy unlocks, nothing. But thanks to all of your tips and suggestions along the way, I've been learning and getting better. And now we reached the point where I almost feel like I can stop calling myself a noob. Almost. There's still a long road ahead, but it's time to keep pushing forward and get one step closer to that final boss achievement. In the last episode, I asked you guys to vote on which boss we should take on next. And Zach absolutely crushed the competition. And that's low-key kind of what I was hoping for because I really want my third Zach cape. We've already cleared the fight cave and defeated Jet for the fire cave, and then stepped it up in the fight kiln, taking down Huracan with all 4 combat styles to earn our kill capes. Now it's time to go even further and upgrade those capes with an igneous stone, which we'll only get by defeating Zach himself. It's supposed to be one of the most challenging bosses I've encountered so far. I'm excited to see what this fight is all about. I'm prepared to bring together everything we mastered because Zach is a beast, and apparently it's supposed to crush my balls. I'm going in with Necromancy simply because it's amazing for survivability, and we need to make it through 17 waves of enemies before even get to Zach. So for learning the fight, it's probably the best pick. We are rocking the tier 90 Necromancy tank armor and tier 90 weapons. As for the perks, we have Precise 6, Eruptive 4. These are very budget perks, but they boost their average hit and DPS nicely. For extra damage, I'm running Cinderbanes with Weapon Poison +++ and Q-Arm Instant Sticks. In the pocket slot, we've got the Scripture of Van, which is perfect for clearing groups of enemies, and then on top of that, the hits can also proc poison, so very beautiful synergy right there. We're wearing an Amulet of Souls, our kiln cape for the last time, hopefully, and then we're using the Tokuzo ring for that sweet 10% damage boost. And last but not least, we are running the Vampirism aura. Now this thing is probably our best friend for learning. It's gonna save us a bunch of food. Alright, that's the setup. Now it's time to dive in and see what Zach has in store for us. At the start of the fight, I knew there was no way I could tank all the monsters head on. So I did what any true hero would do. I dived behind the safety of a rock. From there, I started clearing out the trash mobs. Now, I'll be honest, I've never been a huge fan of the fight cave or the fight kiln. They always felt way too repetitive for my taste. But these waves, they were actually pretty fun. In wave 4, I ran into my first igneous enemies. The trick with these guys is you've gotta stun them before you can deal full damage. Then wave 5 hit me with a challenge wave where I was forced into this circle right in front of Zach and I had to take down 5 enemies in a short time. Luckily, Necromancy came in clutch. Threats of Fate completely shredded them. On wave 9, I faced Igneous Rangers. To break their defenses, you need to hit them with threshold abilities, which makes them vulnerable to attack. After that came a DPS check against Zach himself. I had to deal 50,000 damage. I actually managed it in one cycle, but little did I know that busting out all my thresholds and special attacks is not a good idea, because the very next challenge wave needed me to deal 3000 plus damage hits, and I had no stacks left. So yeah, I failed that one, which was alright because you actually don't need to complete these challenges for the Zach cape. From there it was smooth sailing until wave 14, where I met 3 igneous mages. Their gimmick was easy, just run into melee distance to break their shields. Then came the final challenge wave. I had to survive 4 heavy attacks using only defensive abilities. First, I resonanced the initial hit, then popped Devotion for the next 2. And finally used my brand new Disruption shield to block the last one. After clearing that, I hit the triple jet wave. Honestly, it wasn't too bad. I just kited around the arena and picked them off one by one. And finally, I faced Huracan, who I was already familiar with from the fight kiln, and got him down pretty easily. And now we're fighting this thing. He's got a pretty boss sword. Come on buddy, what you got? Okay, he's stabbing me with his burning sword. This battle was epic. Like, how awesome is it to fight Zug, 20 times your size, in an arena surrounded by lava? The thing that struck me the most about this battle though was the music. I managed to counter most of his mechanics, and I even survived the infamous pizza phase. I was running low on supplies, my potions were running out, my food was getting low, but I was logged in. Oh my god, we got him! Okay, that feels good. It was not the smoothest boss battle, but we did it. Of course, in my celebration, I didn't realize I was still dying to some dumb debuff Zack left on me with his last breath. I rushed back to the reward chest and... Thankfully, the Igneous Stone was sitting right there, along with some juicy loot. Tokus for days. I'll never have to farm Tsar City mobs again just to recharge my ring. But the real prize was this cape. And man, does it look good. I had to get someone to help me make it since I don't have 90 crafting. Shout out to this guy, he was there in 2025 when I made my first ever Zack cape. This cape doesn't just look sick, it's powerful. I couldn't wait, I headed back to Zack to give this cape a proper spin. This fight really pushes you to build on your PVM foundations. The mechanics are more complex, the DPS checks are tighter, and adrenaline management becomes super important. You've gotta plan when to build with basics, and when to dump thresholds and ultimates, either to handle mechanics or to pass challenge waves. It's also an amazing fight for practicing prayer flicking, which is always a nice skill to polish. And once you have the Zack cape, it opens up brand new DPS rotations. Here, for example, when I go into Huracan, I resummon my guys to maximize their uptime, then open with Death Skulls, my strongest ability. With the Zack cape, it now bounces 6 times and only costs 60% adrenaline, which makes building back to 100 so much easier. Add in the Ring of Vigor passive and the Supreme Invigorate aura, and I barely need a few basics before I can cast Living Death. I sip an adrenaline potion, rebuild to 60%, and fire off Death Skulls again. Then you just spam Finger of Death and your weapons back, and Huracan's done in one cycle. Every run I was improving. Fewer mistakes, less food, faster kills. Eventually, I even got a flawless run and unlocked hard mode. Oh, and yeah, we hit 99 necromancy along the way. Getting these new capes has me fired up. Now I just wanna push further and try even more bosses. I decided my next victim was gonna be the Kalphite King, and that I take him down 100 times. The Kalphite King was the first ever EOC boss, and back in the day people called him the toughest boss in RuneScape history. But now, honestly, he's kind of a DPS dummy. I went in with tier 80 necromancy power armor, so the kills weren't exactly fast. You will notice my hit chance is around 60%, basically just scratching him. But still, I managed. The only mechanic you really have to worry about is the green one-shot mechanic. But once you've got that done, everything else is really easy. You just damage the boss until it dies. With that said, the fight still requires some on-the-fly reactions. You gotta keep a close eye on his auto attacks, and be super precise with your abilities to avoid the insta-kill. This was actually the first time I tried full manual combat, mainly because I didn't want global cooldown messing with my freedom timing, but also because I want to slowly ease into full manual in the future. From what I hear, you can kill every boss in the game with Revolution, so it's definitely not required, it's just something I wanna practice. After his charge, he does 2 basic attacks. After the second one, we hit freedom, and then he greens us. So we wait until the stun timer hits 3 seconds, we max distance dive, spam devotion, and that is the green skip. And yeah, always make sure you've got enough adrenaline to activate devotion. We got a couple of combat achievements done too, so that's pretty nice. I'd take a sub 2-minute kill with this gear, let's go. There we go, our first unique from KK, a rapier. Let's see what this thing looks like. Whoa, look at that. Not sure what I'll actually use it for, but hey, at least it's a collection log item. Oh no, a duplicate, a second rapier. Yeah, I definitely don't know what I'm gonna do with 2 of these. Now, all I ever heard about this boss is how annoying he is. And yeah, he definitely is. But honestly, I learned a lot during these 100 kills. The fight teaches you to precast anticipate to avoid being locked down, time your freedom to break stuns, and dodge mechanics without losing too much DPS. You also need to quickly recognize his combat style and pay close attention to his autos if you want to counter the one-shot mechanic. So while the Zack fight is all about handling scripted mechanics, The Kalphite King is about reacting to unpredictable ones. So this is my loot from the 100 kills, 56 million GP total. Pretty much all of that is from the rapiers, since the common loot is basically junk. Honestly, there is no real reason to farm this boss unless you want seeds. And even then there are better ways, so I'm just happy to have knocked him off the list. In case you're wondering, there will be a separate video where I finish up the remaining Zac kills, and of course I show you guys the loot from that as well. That's gonna wrap up this episode. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the series, and drop a comment as well what boss you want to see me take on next, or any PvN tips you've got. But yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.